Alright boys, we're about to break down that simple but vibey loop you just heard, which we made using this and this. We're going to run through every layer, all the effects, show you exactly how we made this. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Alright boys, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight into the first layer, which was the guitar. Here's what it sounds like with no effects. And with the counter melody. Alright, sounds like shit. Luckily, we're cracked at mixing guitars, so we went ahead and cleaned it up. First of all, EQ, cutting out heaps of the lows, just keeping the guitar nice and clean. Next, effect rack. All we added was just one of the plugins from Effect Racks called Radiator. These are the settings we used and it just made it sound more clean, brought out more of the highs. Sick plugin. Next, reverb, just to bring it to life a little bit, give it a bit of space. And finally, just a weird EQ, just taking out some of the frequencies we didn't want in there. So both the main guitar and the counter melody guitar is routed to the same track, just so it had the same feel to it. We wanted to make it sound like it was being played as one guitar. So here's what it sounds like with all the effects. Sounding much better. Boys, we've got a full video on how to record and mix your guitars and just make sick guitar melodies if you've got a guitar. So if you want to watch a more in-depth video on recording and mixing your guitars, we'll link our video in the description. Sick value in there, go watch that. Alright, let's move on to the next layer, which was a piano from Analog Labs. The preset we used was Notte del Concerto. Free preset from Analog Labs under pianos right here. So we played this in on the MIDI. This is a sick piano preset. We didn't even change any of the knobs. All we did was add a simple reverb. Not much going on there, just to bring it to life a little bit. Here's what the pattern sounds like. It's a nice simple little melody there. You can see the velocities are different, and that's because we played it on a MIDI keyboard, making it sound way more realistic than if you just put the notes in on the piano roll. Use your MIDI keyboard, especially for pianos. Secret sauce here, if you want your pianos to sound vintage, almost like a sample piano, I'd like to tell you how to do that. So our BPM here for the project is 119. Before we rendered the piano out, we slowed it down to, it was around 80, 90 BPM, and then we render it out a lot slower. And then once we've rendered it, we put it onto stretch like that, and then we bring it back up to 119. This just makes the piano sound vintage. I don't know why. Try it yourselves. It's sick. Extra effects we put onto the piano after we rendered was an EQ, taking out heaps of those lows, just keeping it super clean. A reverb, just keeping it ambient. A vinyl, bit of warp, which just detunes it a little bit. 1970s filter, everything else is off. And then finally an effect rack, we've got an Echo Boy Jr. and again Radiator. These two plugins are just sick for making vintage sounding layers. So if you've got effect rack or if you've got any of these presets, use them, give them a go. Alright, here's what that piano sounds like after it's been rendered, sped back up, and extra effects added onto it. Sick sounding piano. We also pitched that down 2 semitones to match the guitar. Alright, next layer we added, again using Analog Labs. We used a preset called Fantasy Keys. Have no idea where this came from. It's not a stock preset. We just found it on Reddit somewhere. Go onto Reddit, type up Trap Sound Banks Analog Labs. You're gonna find some sick sounds on there. So here's what those keys sound like with no effects. Obviously, it sounds quite high and harsh. First thing we did was added a halftime just to bring it down a little bit. Stock preset, got an EQ, just focusing on those mids. We didn't want any highs or lows. Reverb, another EQ, pretty much exactly the same as the first one. We just wanted to make sure it was as warm as possible. And finally, a flanges. This is just the stock preset, fruity flanges. Didn't touch anything there. All right, here's what those keys sound like with all those effects on them. Super simple chords, just following the exact same chord progression as the sample, but it just works so well, just makes it super ambient. Sometimes little chords, little simple things can just make your melody sound so much better. Next layer, again from Analog Labs, we used a preset called AMS-II. This was under the keys section, I think. It's just stock from Analog Labs, and we just had a simple little melody like this, following the bass notes of the chords of the sample with no effects. Here's what that sounds like. So it doesn't sound fantastic by itself, but we added some effects onto it. We wanted to keep this sound separate in the mix, but just very subtle. We've got the reverb there, we've got the EQ taking out some of those lows. Vintage chorus, we've turned the noise all the way down and the mix pretty far down as well. And an effect rack using the ambient space preset, which you can find under spaces here. So all those effects, here's what that sounds like now. Alright, already much better, but still wasn't there. So we rendered those bells out and we added a halftime onto it using the half step preset, an EQ taking out some of those highs just to keep it a bit more warm, and another reverb. Alright, with all the effects and also pitching it down 2 semitones, here's what that sounds like. Nice. Much better. Alright, and the last layer we added was a flute. Again from Analog Labs. Analog Labs is our go-to. Pretty much every single sample we're using at least 1 or 2 analog presets. So we got a flute, it's called the Blues Flute. Again, this is another one of those banks off Reddit, it was free. So, played this on the MIDI keyboard as well. Like I said with the piano, try use your MIDI keyboard, especially for melodies. It just makes them sound so much more realistic. You can see the velocity. Don't have to touch that. Playing on the keyboard makes it sound sick. Here's what the flute sounds like with no effects. Sick sound. This flute is amazing. I don't even know how they managed to get this on Analog Labs. For effects on that flute, we've got an EQ taking out those lows, just getting rid of the muddy frequencies. Reverb, just bring it to life. And a stereo shaper is just putting it behind the mix. I wanted this flute to have a bit more bounce to it, so what I did is I chopped it up in SliceX. I'm going to show you how I did that. So I rendered it out, and then you click on the waveform. Fruity SliceX. You want to make sure this BPM is set to the same as your project up here. So I'm on 119, turn the attack up a little bit, and then you click on here, beat will pop up in one of your piano rolls. Right click, split by channel, and now you've got your SliceX, and this is the flute. So here's what it sounds like. So this gives it a bit of a Q-beats effect. Sick, try it. Especially on flutes, works really well. We did that, chopped it up, and then we didn't add any more effects to it. We just pitched it down 2 semitones, and here's what it sounds like after all of that. I know you guys are dying to hear everything all together now. This sample will be released in our upcoming kit, Nostalgia. We're stepping up the quality. We're putting heaps of time, heaps of effort into this kit. And we want to give you boys the opportunity to get in on the free version, which is only available for the first 48 hours. There'll be a link in the description where you boys can put your emails, and we'll notify you guys as soon as the kit is live. After that, it'll be paid only. Here's the full sample. Enjoy, boys.